We've all been there before, facing a monstrous force of enemy troops bearing down on our lines. Rank upon rank of Legionary and Avalons boring in quickly on our outnumbered force. In this episode, we'll explore a tactic designed to destroy even the most stout-hearted infantry lines and make our powerful enemies melt away like Valandian butter. The Killbox is a devastating combination of flanking fire with encirclement to demolish foes, even in badly outnumbered situations. In this episode, we'll take you through several scenarios where it can be employed, show you easily how to learn and master this technique on your own, and lead your army to incredible victory. All right, friends, welcome back again. So we are going to dive deep into the Killbox here. It's been a long time since I refreshed this tactic. It's not something that gets seen a lot on the channel, although we execute it often during campaign battles. Now, what I'm going to try to do in this episode is give you sort of the Killbox A through Z, and we're going to do it easy through hard. And what I mean by that is each of these little custom battle challenges, we will face a harder foe or a harder situation, and then see if we can't defeat it using a Killbox. Now to start, I'm going to give you essentially the easy mode Killbox. For guys who are just starting, maybe you picked up Bannerlord a month ago and you want to use some advanced tactics, but all the movement you see in my campaigns is overwhelming. Hopefully this example gives you a good idea. Now for this first battle, I'm just going to get rid of our cavalry altogether. We are slightly outnumbered, 54 more units here by an Empire force of equal quality strength. In other words, all units on the battlefield are tier 3 through 5. And of course, our army is archer heavy. That is one of the keys to the Killbox. There's no such thing as a Killbox with all cavalry, for example, unless you're using horse archers. But we will be using a mix of about 40 to 60% archers for this series. I may pump it up a little bit depending on the difficulty of the scenario. I'm just going to try a bunch of different custom battles and keep the ones that I think are most useful to you guys. All right, so what is a Killbox? Killbox is a very basic concept. We are going to surround the enemy with archers, right? We are going to get 3 different archer divisions and a horse archer division. The archer divisions are the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and I try to keep these the same for every battle. That way I remember, right? And I try to keep their location. The 4th on the left, the 5th in the center, and the 6th on my right. The horse archers are kind of free. They can kind of move around because they're mobile. We'll put them behind the enemy. So let me give you a top-down view of what this is going to look like as the enemy approaches. Their infantry will try to attack the center. We will draw them in with our own infantry, form them into a square, and then put horse archers behind them, thereby executing the Killbox, right? Their infantry in the middle. It is a Killbox, right? They are surrounded by death. All right, so this is a little bit of a complicated process. We're going to use the overhead RTS mode here for the first few battles. I may even use it for a bunch of these battles. We'll just assign the player there to be controlled by the AI, and I will slow this battle down. Most of the battles I'm actually going to speed up using the RTS mod, but we will actually slow-mo parts of this battle just so that you can see all this movement very clearly. Again, 4th, 5th, and 6th, sort of forming a bucket shape or U-shape. This is not the first time I've given a Killbox episode. Of course, the guys Xing out are already probably pros at this tactic. And I love to read comments for guys who just committed and executed their first Savage Killbox and destroyed the enemy. Now, a couple clarifications. You're not going to be able to pull a Killbox off on extremely hilly terrain. It's also very difficult to do if there's lots of trees because it's hard to see your units. Finally, I would not try a Killbox if your enemy has less than 50% infantry. In this battle, I think we gave them 70 or 80% infantry, so that has this big wave of Imperials coming up, and that's essential for success. Now, fortunately, this is a very common army composition. You will face, especially in the early game in Bannerlord, armies between 50 and 80% infantry, especially against armies like the Sturgeons. Now, this cavalry here, observe what we're going to do. I don't want our horse archers being mown down by this cavalry. We're just going to sort of keep an eye on them, and what I'm actually going to do is just move them away from them. I don't want them attacking our horse archers. Those guys are delicate. Those guys don't even have shields. Now, for the rest of the cavalry, all we're going to do is basically tell our men to hold on. The command for that is F1, F6. This cav division on this flank over here, our left flank, is creeping through the forests, and I think we'll zoom in on these guys a little bit. What we want our units to do is stand still. When they're charged by cavalry, in this instance, if they suffer a lot of losses, they will scatter around and move a lot. What I want them to do is not move. So what you do on the PCs, you say F1, F6, and it tells them to stand still. That way, even when they're charged and banged around by cavalry, they know their commander is confident, they know he has a plan, and therefore they eat that spear in the face, right? These guys, even though they don't love it, they're getting knocked around, they're getting speared. You didn't notice a huge wave of death right there, right? Some guys died, but it wasn't too bad. Now we're going to bring the horse archers back in on the other side, and like I said before, we're going to back the infantry up here. The infantry in the center is essential because we want to bait the enemy. If the infantry is not close enough to the enemy at the beginning, they will not attack your infantry. They will attack your archers, which is highly suboptimal. On the left over here, we're moving the horse archers in, and even though this rock is in my way, I'm still going to position the horse archers behind the enemy unit. Now, their vanguard, the big wave of white shields there, is reaching our infantry line. It's within about 40 or 50 feet. I like to form my infantry in a square at that stage. These guys will start to tighten up. They will hold their shields up, and of course, that helps them survive the onslaught. Now, our archers are behind the enemy, shooting them literally right in the back, right? This is the key to the kill box, is they can't hold their shield up to every side, so as the enemy pursues your troops here, they're getting scorched in the back. Now, our infantry is going to get mauled here, right? They're outnumbered like 3 or 4 to 1. That's okay. Look at all the death spam, right? Our archers are working. Now our horse archers are in here, and guess what? They're also directly behind the enemy. This is what I was referring to earlier with your kill box. The enemy's sort of focused entirely on our infantry here. The square is being surrounded, but at the same time, the enemy that's stacked up here is getting shot to pieces. I mean, they are getting shot back into the Stone Age. The next time you see this Imperial force, they will have like a bronze hammer because they just got destroyed. You can just see the arrows literally smoking and killing these guys in the back of the head where their shields are facing the other way. Their commander just got shot. And I'm moving this square away here. This just helps increase the death. And this battle really is already over. We could actually charge right now, and this battle would be over. So sometimes this happens. Their infantry is actually pulling off that target. They're saying, okay, that's not working. What do we do now? But look where they are. They're hundreds of feet away from the nearest target, right? Our infantry is protected there. I'm actually going to move my units forward and put our units even closer to the enemy here. Meanwhile, we can charge with this infantry. These guys go from being prey to predators. They are now going to bear in on the enemy, and now the enemy's in a really bad spot. Shot from behind, and these horse archers are too close. In fact, a few of them are getting caught up here. Some of these guys will get killed before they can retreat. Looks like we lost a couple. But now the infantry hit them on the other side. They're still being smoked by arrows on every single side, and this is very bad for enemy morale. A lot of Bannerlord players, tacticians, video games have heard of Hammer and Anvil. Hammer and Anvil doesn't work particularly well with vanilla Bannerlord, but you could call this like shoot 'em and anvil, right? Like infantry on one side is charging and archers on the other, and the enemy routs, right? They just can't handle that kind of an assault. Meanwhile, their archers are coming up, but this battle is over. You can see from the death spam there, we have 329 kills and only 120 losses, despite the fact we were outnumbered here and didn't use too complicated tactics. The enemy beats feet, and they're out of here. A pretty destructive victory. All right, so let's try this same battle again, and I realize I can make this even simpler for you fellas. We'll do one more really simplified version of this. We'll speed this one up, and then we'll start to get to the more difficult scenarios. In this episode, we will try cavalry-heavy armies. We will try scenarios where our enemy has much more troops than us. We will even try where we have extremely low-level troops and show you that this works even early on in a campaign where you have a bunch of Tier 2 and Tier 3 archers. You could still do this and have success, and I will get to all that in due time. All right, so let's do the exact same thing here. We're just going to simplify it even more. I'm going to put our units out here where they're going to start, and we're going to very minimally move our troops in this second battle. We will move with the RTS mode here just to sort of speed it up. That way this episode doesn't take 2 hours. This is probably already going to be a half-hour episode. We will try to make the most of your time here today. So what I'm actually going to do is, at the beginning, position horse archers out in front. We will speed this way up here. And I'm just going to leave them there, right? Even though they're going to get charged by cavalry, that's okay. You'd be surprised to see that they don't get completely devastated. They don't do great, but those horse archers there won't just get wiped out by a cav charge. All right, just like the first battle, the enemy's boring in, and you see what's happening again. They form a shield wall, which slows them down. That's key to the strategy. Now that they're getting close to our first division, those guys get told to square and generally move them away from where your other units are, right? We're going to actually assume the position of the commander here, and I'm going to manually drag these guys my direction. In other words, if you were on the field at this stage, you just tell your infantry to get into a square and get in the center of them, right? You need to not die, of course, otherwise your units will do whatever the fuck they want. But while you're being chased here, just back up. Their enemies all trying to menace us and roar and shit like that. You know, theoretically, we're in trouble here, but our square's holding, right? Our guys are fighting it out at the edges here, but vitally, our crossbow on every side here is shredding the enemy. They're basically untouched. Only the cavalry's shooting them a little bit here, and this second battle is already over, right? In fact, I don't need to move anybody. These crossbow are completely untouched, shredding everything in sight. The crossbow on the other side are shredding everything in sight, and the enemy gets immolated. It's not a flawless victory, right? We're suffering losses. You see red here and there, but this is about as easy as it gets. And even though we were outnumbered here, we didn't just win, we throttled the enemy here, right? The enemy all of a sudden is a big green flush as the enemy routes. Their cavalry made like a little pathetic charge there. And as you can see, again, a better or almost 3-to-1 kill ratio. I mean, we lost 130 and the rest of their troops fled. That is a huge victory in this game. All right, so let's crank the difficulty here. Let's do a Tier 2 through Tier 6 Sturgeon Army versus our Tier 2 through Tier 6 Battanian Army. Now, on one hand, we're going to make it way harder, right? We're going to give the Sturgeons a lot more troops here, mostly infantry, because that's often the case when you're fighting Sturgia, all those nasty Tier 5 heavy infantry, and we're going to use Tier 2 to 6, but, of course, we have the Fiend Champ. Now, let's crank the amount of enemies way up here, right? Let's try to make it I don't want to say impossible, but extremely difficult, right? Right now we're outnumbered worse than 50%. They have like 300 more troops, 250 more troops than us, and we'll see if this Battanian kingdom is as badass as I often trumpet it on the channel. Now this is a nice landscape here with that hills over there. We'll use that elevation. We will try to surround the enemy, and of course we will eventually enact a kill box. Now, we have some cavalry. Again, we have some defensive cavalry, but I'm going to make a little bit of a change here with Sturgia. I'm going to add skirmishers to the 6th Division. See those javelins? Some of those guys have throwing axes. In fact, that's kind of suboptimal. There's no way, by the way, to differentiate for the game between javelins and throwing axes. The game doesn't have that function. It'd be nice if there's a little button. Instead of javelins, there's also throwing axes, but it is what it is. In fact, there's a fair amount of javelins in the 1st Division, but that's fine because we'll kite some with them as well. All right, so we're going to have the same setup, actually, as a few of these previous battles. Cavalry in the 2nd and 3rd, and then archers and or skirmishers for the Battanians in the 4th and 6th. The 5th will be strictly archers, and of course, with those Fiend Champs, we're going to be able to do major damage at range. Now, we're going to have to here, right? We're facing an absolutely huge army of Sturgeons. This is the kind of battle in-game, if you're facing and you use standard tactics, you're going to get butchered. In fact, I think just like that previous battle, just to show you how powerful tactics are here, we will do a 60-second Sergeant Annihilation and see how badly they get smoked. It's not just that Fiend Champions are strong, it's using them in this way that makes them strong. So just like the previous battle, 2nd and 3rd Cavalry guarding the 2 wings, 1st Infantry in the center, 5th behind them, and the 4th Skirmishers and Archers behind the 3rd Cavalry on the left. I think by now I've made all that very clear to you. Now this hill here, hills are important. You as the commander must notice when your units can't see. If they can't see, of course, the kill box and the shooting is worthless, right? It's vital to be able to see that your units can actually shoot. Otherwise, they will stand there. They will not adjust. So we're going to use this hill. That way they can shoot down, sometimes even over the top of the enemy shields. I'm going to play this battle mostly from the ground level here, just to sort of give guys who don't have the RTS mod an option and a view to see what this looks like. And that is a lot of enemies, right? It's 700, and they have lots of cavalry coming in too. So their cavalry is going to annihilate our cavalry. That is a certainty. We are using our cavalry as bait, as crash test dummies here. We're okay with that, right? They're going to guard our vital archers and skirmishers. It's a price we're willing to pay. So just intercepting their cavalry, you see how few cavalry even get through. And of course, a lot of the ones that do get through, what do? They get a big javelin in the face from all these archers and skirmishers. Now, they have JavCav. That's actually doing some damage to our guys there. They're definitely going to score some kills. Not much we could do about that. Again, though, it's just an acceptable loss for this situation. So the 1st Division is our only main infantry division on defense, right? That 1st Division, again, will be moved across the battlefield to sort of get the enemy's attention, and we will move them in a square. Just kind of moving our cavalry up here because their infantry is sort of breaking into multiple different angles. If that ever happens, right, you want to continue to spread your troops around. Force them to choose a target. Now, if they completely split, you're better off individually charging. And we'll see if that happens. Maybe I'll give you a demonstration of that. See the 1st Division in the middle there acting like bait. The enemy's coming up to it. Over here, the 2nd Cavalry is guarding our flank. And now I'm going to start to swivel the 4th and 5th Division, right? We're basically going to get them away from that huge zerg of blue shields out there in the middle of the battlefield. Kiting is something you want to have at least one unit standing still. So the 4th and 5th are moving right now, but this 6th Division is pounding the enemy. Now, we'll move them down here just a little bit. There is going to be a very brief moment where nobody's shooting, nobody's throwing a javelin, but very quickly that 5th Division is going to be set and doing damage. You can already see the guys shooting. Now we can tell them to stop, and they're going to cause major damage. So that square is being zerged, right? There's 410 infantry zerging our square, which is good, right? We like that. That means our archers are now shooting behind these guys. The 5th Corps is kind of flanking them. Our cavalry right here can actually be told to charge with the 6th. Why? Because some of our 6th Division is infantry. Those infantry will roar up and sort of present a threat to the enemy archers. Motherfucker, guy just stabbed the shit out of me. Doesn't he know I'm giving a demonstration here on YouTube? We'll have to kill some of his troops for that. A little punishment. So the 4th Corps is largely decimated. That's okay, right? Even if it breaks down at this stage and you only have 2 divisions, the key is that you have an infantry division that's baiting the enemy. They're still chasing that 1st Division, and this 6th Division is firmly behind the enemy. Additionally, at the beginning of the battle, I selected higher strength units for this. So that's why you see the Fiend Champs moving in heavier on this side, right? That means Fiend Champs are aggressively moving in on the enemy. I actually see some in this division as well. I thought I clicked it, but maybe I did not. In any case, it's not going to matter, right? The square is pulling in the enemy. This is a closer battle, of course, but you have to remember, we're outnumbered by, you know, almost 250 units, something like that. This is not a battle you're supposed to win, and I think we're still going to be able to. Here, I'm actually going to charge. I don't want our troops going over the edge of that ridge. They're already kind of engaged with the enemy, and anybody who's been smacked around by a Fiend Champ knows they're perfectly capable on offense. Their archers are being skewered. I'm being skewered. All right, we got an Oath Sworn here, and it's an F1, F3 situation. If you look up at the power bar at this stage, odds are we're going to win even without tactics. We've done the dirty work for this battle. Their vanguard is kind of falling away here, and I think this battle is over. I think they have routed. And we still have a good amount of troops left, right? I would say we have 100, I'm just guessing 130, 150 Fiends. Fiends, it's mostly Fiend Champs and archers and whatnot. Of course, our infantry mostly got killed. But obviously, anytime you even win this battle, you're very happy. So a quick glance here, 147 troops survived, and we just destroyed almost 700. And again, that's with tactics. In fact, let's go ahead and give that demonstration. Let's go ahead and show you this exact same force and see if the AI is capable of anything like this. I don't even think they're going to be able to win this battle. You know, Fiend Champs and Wildlings, you guys know, I'm quite bullish. I'm quite favorable to these troops here. But let's see what the Sergeant does. They're just charging. Our plan is to remain on the defensive. It really is comical when you watch the AI on a regular basis. It seems like, especially when I do these custom battles, they fight about as bad as they can. The archers have isolated themselves. That means they can't shoot. At least now they're pulling back to a good defensive line, but they're over the other side of the ridge, so they can't even hit the approaching infantry. I have no idea what they're doing. It's bad. Now it really does appear they charge the enemy infantry, which is a complete disaster. Even with Fiend Champs, can't charge 700 Sturgeon infantry. And, well, now that the AI says charge, right, please don't use the Sergeant. I won't beat this horse to death, but I do want to put these examples in here occasionally, especially when we, when we run one of these challenges, experience a high level of success. With the exact same troops here, you put the AI in charge, and this is the proverbial Tesla crashing you and your wife into that garbage truck and smashing your $50,000 car. Right, a complete disaster here. I don't know if they killed 200 troops. 180. What a disaster. All right, let's move on to the next challenge. All right, so what happens if you're facing a cavalry heavy army here, right? We will play against Valandia. We will give them almost 50% heavy cavalry and a really good captain that increases their damage. In fact, let's give them even more troops here to increase the difficulty. And we have the same army we had in the first battles. 60% archers and then a small amount of cavalry, archers, and horse archers. I want a few cavalry here because we're going to try to use those cavalry defensively to counter some of the enemy cavalry. That is a big distinction and critical part of fighting enemy cavalry with the Killbox. Fighting a lot of cavalry with the Killbox is much harder, but I think as you'll see, it's still highly possible to be successful. The big key is using our cavalry in shield wall lines to protect our archers. So same thing as before, 3 archer divisions. By now you should be used to it, the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And if you practice this will definitely become human nature for you, second nature. I guess it's human nature as well, right? We're going to do some destructive shit here. All right, so 4th, 5th, and 6th, again, sort of wrapping around our infantry division. We'll use this little bit of elevation over here. Now look at this cavalry division down here, right? These guys are in a shield wall, and you put them roughly where you think your archers are going to get charged. Your archers will get charged. What we got going on here? I think I got my horse archers mixed up in there somehow. Let's just... let's reset this division here and we'll fix that. Sometimes that gets bugged out. All right, there we go. Back to all archers in the 4th Corps. We're going to put them roughly right behind that 3rd division. That way, as the enemy cavalry charges our archers, it has a little bit of a layer of protection. Not a lot, but a little layer of protection to slow down the speed of their charge and limit how much our archers get torn apart. 1st division in the center as before. On this left side, or excuse me, the right side, we'll put the 2nd division. Again, cavalry in a big open line. The 2nd and 3rd division are just defensive cavalry guarding and protecting our archers. At the back, of course, we're going to put the 5th archers. And we have these horse archers. I'm not quite sure where to use them in this battle, so we'll just stick them off to the side. Very similar idea as the same battle, right? We're going to move our 1st Corps back in a square. We're going to offset our 5th division from the 1st division so that the archers aren't standing right next to the infantry. That's a critical point, right? Make sure you keep distance between your divisions. And here comes this enemy force, outnumbering us here by more than 20%, something like 25%. And we'll see if we can't be successful here. This is a battle you're going to face in your campaign if you're using Imperials. I'm not recommending you use 60% archers, but even 50% in a similar tactic would still work. Personally, if you wanted to have the most amount of success in Bannerlord, this is the army composition I would have. 40 to 60% archers, 20% cavalry, 20% infantry. I really do think it's fine to have 50 or 60% archers. If you don't like using archers, obviously you're not going to use that kind of a makeup, but I think that's optimal. All right, so let's observe again. We will get down to the ground level here using the RTS mod. I'm just putting our horse archers behind us for now. I think I'll just have them charge. F1, F3 does fine for horse archers because they just kind of randomly circle the battlefield and try to protect themselves. All right, so sort of intercepting their cavalry with these 2 lines, right? We're watching them come in. Our 1st division's already in a square. The enemy has formed a shield wall, and they're starting to bear in. Let's watch this cavalry here. Let's see how much they get broken up and slowed down by our single line of cav. Look at that. Like 80% of their cavalry got stuck on the line, and of course that means our archers are shooting them full of holes. The 7th archers back there can just be told to charge. Our square is getting swallowed up. Now the enemy has less infantry in this battle because they have more cavalry. So it is going to get messy as their cavalry start charging all over the place. But we're going to back our infantry up, keep letting our archers work. And this is actually really nice. The enemy is surrounding and destroying our cavalry. That's fine. Our archers are working. As long as our archers are free, I honestly don't give a fuck what happens to our cavalry. In fact, it's perfect. This is optimal. Them attacking our cavalry, at least the cavalry has armor, right? Our archers are back here virtually free, firing away. Now, just like before, we're going to move the square away from the enemy. In fact, our square is almost as large as the infantry attacking it. We could probably attack with those guys, but just for demonstration's sake. And at the bottom here, of course, you see our archers getting run over, but you don't see them all dead, right? Cavalry just does not destroy archers in Bannerlord. Over here, this archer division is largely free, and these guys, I assure you, are causing massive damage. Moving our infantry away again, and we're doing that so that the backs of the enemy is facing our archers. And this battle is already over. Now, notice these guys here. No, they're not shooting at all. They're out of ammo, so the enemy's charging up. What do? You charge. Fuck you, enemy, right? Our sergeant crossbow lean into battle and start clubbing everybody to death. And actually, at this stage, F1, F3 would be totally appropriate. And this battle is over. Even though we're outnumbered here by 25%, we still have a lot of survivors, and this proud Valandian horse meat is indeed for sale at the local market. Again, a better than 2-to-1 kill ratio. More than half of our troops survived, even though we're badly outnumbered against lots of cavalry. It's just a devastating tactic, and not too complex there, I hope. I hope for you fellas, that's pretty easy to observe. Now, I need to do this. I want to do the exact same thing with the sergeant, just to show you that it's not strictly archers that are winning the battle here, right? We will actually put the sergeant in control. Our plan is to remain on the defensive. Then what the fuck are you guys running away then for? I often use these as comedy hour. The AI here says they're planning to remain defensive. Most of their troops are running up into the hills, except the horse archers that are suiciding on the enemy. I mean, they may not get any kills. They're just running right in between. The enemy cavalry charged them. Let's see what kind of a kill ratio they get. So far, I think we have 2 or 3 kills, and the enemy is just eliminating our horse archers. 40-to-1. So that is a recipe for disaster, right? The AI just suicided our horse archers here. I couldn't tell you what they're doing up here other than hiding in the woods like Grima. Hopefully they have their sack of grain, just like the Lord of the Rings. These guys are just cowering up here in the hills. And it looks like they're just in a big jumble awaiting the onset of a huge amount of infantry and cavalry. This is going to be ugly. They're getting a few kills as the enemy infantry closes here, but once these sergeants start bobbing up and down with Volgiers going crazy, this battle is over. All right, the coup de grace, we'll use some French words here. All the troops rendezvoused here. En français, c'est vous préférez, and the enemy gets destroyed. Or the ally gets destroyed. Excuse me, I should really say the enemy, because when you put the sergeant in charge, you are putting the enemy in charge, right? You got absolutely slaughtered here. I don't even think we're going to get 1 kill for every 2 deaths. It really is kind of a disgrace. I've shown this before in other custom battles. There are still plenty of players that use the sergeants. Please don't use the sergeants. Look, he's charging with 50 troops left. He says charge in capital letters. What are you supposed to do, right? You're in here charging, and of course you get cut down. Please don't let the sergeants be in charge. All right, a total disgrace there. Let's move on to the next challenge. All right, so I actually tried this in one of my earlier videos talking about the Imperial Sergeant Crossbow, and we're going to try something highly unique here. All Tier 5 Sturgeon Infantry, and we are going to use 75% Imperial Sergeant Crossbow and 25% Imperial Elite Manavliaton. Right, we'll give them a gigantic, insane amount more troops than us, and we'll see what we can do here with the unique Killbox. Why is this unique? Because this also combines another tactic called Shield and Shock. Now, obviously, with no other cavalry and no archers, we're going to be able to pound them with ammunition until we're literally out of ammunition, right? We're going to be able to get our 3 divisions of crossbow. 1, 2, 3. I think we'll use 3 divisions of crossbow. Maybe we'll do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 4. We'll have the 1st and 3rd division be shock troop divisions, right? So these, it says infantry, but every single one of those guys in the 1st and 3rd Corps, you zoom in here, these are Manavliatons, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to surround the enemy and pound them with crossbow. And then once we're out of ammo, we're going to charge. Charge and shield wall with our crossbow. They're pretty damn decent little melee units. and we will have shock troops behind them. So it's a combination kill box in this battle. It's going to be a kill box at range. Essentially, in the early stages of this battle, the Manavliatons, I'm going to try to keep them out of harm's way. It should be pretty easy, right? Because the enemy only has infantry, and what a gigantic amount of infantry they have, right? They have, I think I gave them like 718 infantry, right? We're outnumbered here by like 300. They have a gigantic amount of troops. 739. I mean, that's insane, right? We're hugely outnumbered here, almost 2-to-1, and I still think we can win this. All right, so we're going to start spreading out our crossbow here, and eventually we are going to surround the enemy, right? A kill box. I recognize from a ground level this is more difficult for some of you fellas to see. I will occasionally do something like this with the RTS mod, but I think for the naysayers, for the people that say you can't really do this from a ground level, absolutely you can. Once you sort of gain a nice familiarity with the game, once you sort of understand where your units are, inherently know this is the 6th and the 3rd Corps is over here next to them, we can just tuck them in behind the 6th Corps. The enemy will throw throwing axes and whatnot at us because their infantry has, what do they all have? They all have throwing axes, right? I'm trying to think. All 3 of their units have throwing axes. The line breaker, the Sturgeon heavy axeman. Oh, the spearman has no axes. So 2 of the 3 have axes. All right, so early in this battle, the enemy has no chance. Absolutely hapless. As long as we kite correctly here, they're not going to score any kills in melee. They might throw a few throwing axes and hit a guy in the cheek or something like that, but it shouldn't cause major damage. So the first minute or so of this is strictly going to be a true kill box. What does that mean? That means essentially getting your units close without letting the enemy get a hold of them. You're almost acting like a stripper here, right? You want to get close to the client, but not so close that they start doing things they're not supposed to. So we're going to give them a little whiff here each time. Look at all the throwing axes coming in. Be surprised if there aren't a few deaths there. In fact, our Manavliatons, I got them out in front by accident there. We'll tuck those guys in from the side. We want to get our crossbow close here because they'll do more damage at close range, but we don't want them obviously getting caught up by all these Sturgeon infantry. If this Sturgeon infantry line gets a hold of any of these units, it's dead. It's annihilated. Doesn't matter if I square it or what. It's 700 infantry with line breakers and stuff like that. They're going to roar, they're going to go crazy, and our units are just going to melt. This is working nicely so far, and you can see not too much micromanaging, right? I'm watching these guys. Okay, they're getting close to the 6th. We'll just move them back literally 20, 30 feet. While they're moving back, right, the enemy's being shot behind. And the death spam is obviously, it's been entirely green to start the battle. Now we're running out of bolts, right? When I start to click on the units, you can actually see the amount of white that each of the archer has there is less, right? It's like we're down to about half the normal bolts. Some guys are probably out. And the reason that works is the guys towards the front will run out of ammo first because there's nobody in the way. You can see how it still says they have ammo, and yet there's guys literally standing there holding their shield. Some troops will run out of ammo. When it gives you the little ammo bar, it's just telling you collectively how much ammo that division has, not how much each individual unit has. Obviously, that would be impossible to have 500 units on the screen showing you exactly how much ammo they have. All right, so we're preparing for the Annihilation here, the Annihilation kill box. We've weakened them considerably here. A lot of their guys are injured. A lot of them are dead, but they still have a huge amount of infantry to go. That's what these shock troops are for, right? Now, in anticipation of this, I'm going to line up our crossbow here very tightly, very close to this fishball of enemy troops, and we're going to get them basically in a sharp line, charge, and then what we're going to do is have all of these crossbow hold fire, right? That way every single guy charges at the same time. We're all around the enemy here, and so this is going to be a four-sided flanking charge. Everybody pours in now. I'm getting drilled by throwing axes, but the key here is that our enemies are surrounded. There's shock troops and crossbow coming up so thick that I can't move, and it's messy, of course, because now we're going hand-to-hand with all these Sturgeons. But I think we have enough troops and enough angles on them here, enough shock troops to wear them out. And of course, vitally, we're surrounding them. This side right here is the only side that kind of broke. And speaking of breaking, some of our guys are breaking, I think. No, they're actually chasing the enemy that's breaking. This battle is over. This Sturgeon force of 738 infantry is annihilated. This is 450 infantry and crossbow on our side of the same tier as the enemy, and we didn't just win here. This is a complete massacre. What a devastating assault this was right here. This is that is amazing. These two units combined are obviously immensely powerful together. Almost a 5-to-1 kill ratio here. We still have 2/3 of our troops left, and obviously these sturgeons are annihilated. I mean, it doesn't get any more definitive than that, does it, fellas? All right, let's see. Let me see. I got one more challenge planned. We will give this next one a shot, and then we'll wrap this episode up. And let's do tier 5, all tier 5 Imperials. Let's try one last crazy challenge here for this episode. Let's say you're early in a campaign, and this mean, nasty-ass lord is coming up to you, stacked with tier 5 units. In fact, his whole army here is tier 5. The Horse Archer, the Imperial Elite Sergeant Crossbow that we just showed, and we will have only tier 2 and tier 3 units. I didn't stutter, I didn't misspeak. Our army here is Britannia, and we only have tier 2 and tier 3 units. So no Fians or Fian champs. We don't even have the hero, right? We've got Woodrunners and Britannian Raiders and shit like that, right? You would say, the average person would say, this is definitely impossible. You're never going to win that battle. Of course, we know what happens if the AI takes over here. It would be a disaster. And just for fun, we'll have a tier 3 militiaman in our army as well. Now, I don't think this would be a possible win if the army was mixed. If they had 30% horse archers, 30% cavalry, I don't think we could win with this setup. So we'll try an infantry heavy army. We'll try to get to that ridge. I don't think we're going to be able to make it to that ridge. We may even have to do a little bit of a peekaboo ridge defense here to get behind it. That'll at least eliminate some of their archer damage. It's kind of suboptimal because I had planned on pounding them at range. But if we perform a kill box here, I think there's at least a chance these scrubby troops, tier 2 and tier 3 units, can pull this off. Now, no cavalry, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm turning the 2nd and 3rd Division into bait ball infantry. I want them to be able to hold out a spear to slow down some of the enemy cavalry. These are going to be elite cataphracts, or maybe it's just a regular cataphract. It's going to be the tier 5 Imperial Horsemen charging our little tier 2 and 3 guys. It's like, this is almost like a Braveheart battle where a bunch of these Scottish guys in their kilt are fighting these armored English horses here, and we're trying to reenact the William Wallace scene, right? We're trying to overcome these obstacles. And we don't have any allies that are going to charge in at the end of the battle with their cavalry. What we have, instead of pikes, a bunch of angry Irishmen, and a noble cavalry charge at the end, is we have a kill box. So I am going to have to use this ridge here. We're not going to be able to beat the enemy to this. In fact, I got to get set up quickly here because they do have some horse archers. If I can get our units set up quickly, those horse archers will melt away. Horse archers do not like facing standing archers. In other words, if your archers are standing still, they will scorch horse archers. But obviously, if our troops are moving, these horse archers are going to fuck them up. God, it's going to be close. Fuck you guys. They're coming in hard. Come on, boys, these tier 2 and tier 3 Woodrunners. Kill them. And look at a nice hail as some of our units start to get set up here. And even though it's tier 5 horse archers, they are still immolated. What is the strength of our army, right? The strength of our army is obviously arrows. We have lots and lots of arrows. Even the tier 2 Fian, what is it? A highborn youth. Even he has two quivers of arrow. That's a vital part of this battle. I don't have to be super conservative with how much ammo we use. If you were using Valandia, for example, you would have to be a little bit more careful with your ammo use here. Here, we've got lots of ammo. Now, they're not doing very much damage, right? These guys are amateurs. Let's watch what happens here. Our little square is baiting the cavalry. Hold on, boys! And a few of them got knocked to the ground. I don't think I saw a single death, though. Good job, boys. Holy shit, look how nasty this looks. Just a huge vanguard of Legionaire and Manavliaton. All right, so we're going to start baiting them, right? We've got this 1st Division. We're going to wave it in front of them, right? Again, we're going to wave the nice-smelling panties right in front of them here, get them all roused up, and then we're going to pull it away from them. It's like Charlie Brown as a stripper. Come and get it. And now we're going to start moving our archers around the enemy here. Over here, this infantry division, hold on, boys. The cav division bores into them. Hopefully they don't get mauled too bad. I'll probably help just a little bit here. Oh shit, our infantry can't get away. They don't have the athleticism. Hurry up, boys. Line formation, get away. I don't know if they're going to be able to get away. Those guys are probably fucked. I can maybe square them. The good news is that they're ignoring our 4th, which is shooting them directly in the back. We could start to bring our 6th Corps in here as well. God, they're charging both divisions. Well, this is not going quite as planned. Let's get the 5th backed up just a little bit. That infantry division is sort of getting caught up. They're like holding their shields up. And well, at least this 4th division is doing okay. Okay, they left our 6th alone. That's good, right? We're going to be able to swivel those guys behind the enemy. In fact, they just peeled off our infantry. So let's go ahead and bring this 4th Corps and set them right on top of this ridge. They're going to be unreachable. I still have a little bit of infantry to shove in the enemy's face, right, to bait them. That 1st division actually survived. There's 2 guys in that final, 1 dude in that final division. I love it, dude. You're telling the guy square. He's down there by himself. He's like, square? What does that mean? But we have the enemy in a fishball here, and critically, their archers aren't over the ridge here. So our archers are scorching them, even though they're tier 2 and tier 3. Oh shit! Move back a little bit. The 6th got just a little too close, but the enemy's in a fishball here. What I refer to is when, like a type of fish, they basically panic and they form a big fishball because they're hoping that other people get eaten instead of them. This is usually a fatal situation. For the enemy infantry. That means all of their forces are tightly knotted together. These 2 different divisions can charge. Let's charge at the 5th too. And I think we've got this shit. These handful of guys over here just charged. A few of their troops started to rout. Let's shoot a few in the head here. It's no use, you hear them yelling. And this battle's over. We just totally smoked 500 or what was it, 450 an equal number of tier 5 units with our little raggedy tier 2 and tier 3 guys. I fucking love it. And if that's not the perfect demonstration to end this episode, to end discussion about a Killbox here today, I don't know what is. Oftentimes when I'll post videos on the channel where we destroy large forces using looters and brigands and stuff like that, people are incredulous, and a lot of times there's even cheating accusations. Guys are like, oh, you must be doing this, you must be using a mod. I promise you fellas, we're not using mods for this. This is just a custom battle. I don't even know if there are mods that alter the custom battle here. This is just tactics, and if you execute these same tactics in your game, you can do the same thing. So hopefully this episode helps you fellas get on your way to becoming an absolute Bannerlord kingpin. Hopefully this shows you the devastating power of the Killbox. You want to hit subscribe, of course, if you want to see more. I appreciate you fellas, and I will see you guys next time.